Welcome to the White Sox Recap Podcast. I am Ryan McGuffey. What should the White Sox do with Garrett Crochet? If you've been listening, you know where I stand. I think they have to move him. It's two ships passing each other in the night. Garrett Crochet has 2 years remaining of control, and the White Sox are coming off of a 41-win season. But should they consider extending him? We're going to give you both sides of the spectrum when Brian Anderson joins me to discuss, should the White Sox trade Garrett Crochet? Should the White Sox extend Garrett Crochet? All of that and a little bit more of a spirited discussion right now on the White Sox Recap Podcast. Look at who's back on the podcast. BA, after a couple of episodes of getting the high rollers of Bruce Bochy and Will Venable in the saddle, I get the guy that I actually care about the most sitting next to me, or at least on screen next to me. BA, what's up, my man? How you been?
I'm good. I see where I stand, Guff. You know, you get the brass in there, you get Boch and Venable, and you send old BA back to the minors. I see how it works, buddy.
Hey, man, I got to take advantage of the options when the options are there. In fairness, as you know, because I reached out to you about Boch, that one popped up kind of in my lap unexpectedly and had to go. So, all right. So there's been a lot that's happened since the last time the two of us have gotten together. And we're coming down the pipe here as we get into that Thanksgiving week, and then the winter meeting's right around the corner. The White Sox have hired Will Venable. They've introduced him a few times. We heard from Will earlier on the podcast, and Chris Getz has gone on record in saying, you know, they're going to have conversations, and if they move Garrett Crochet, they would like to do it by the end of the winter meetings. He also added that they're going to target position players. Those are all things that make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. But for the same reasons, I think, you know, offline that you and I have been talking, I'm a huge fan of the idea of trading Garrett Crochet, only because of where the organization stands as we sit here right now, coming off a historically bad 41 and 121 loss season. This is just about semantics here to me, Bri. This is like where he's at in his career trajectory, where the White Sox at in this second rebuild. It just doesn't make a lot of sense when you have so many needs to fill this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, right? We had joked around about it offline. I don't think they should trade him, and for one reason and one reason only. It's like I was asking myself, I was thinking about you in the shower today. I don't know why.
Oh, beautiful.
I was thinking my question to you would be, it's like, how often do you think these like wipeout lefties come around, right? And you being a White Sox fan, you following my career and like being heavily involved in the AL Central, you know, you look at the Sabathias, Cliff Lee, you know, Francisco Liriano when he was younger, and like Johan Santana. It's like, and then we had Chris Sale. And I thought to myself, I said, you're not wrong. Like if you stink, you dump him and you go get 5 prospects, a starter, an impact position player, right? But for me, it's like the Southsiders are pissed off. The fans are pissed. They need something to get asses in the seats, right? And so for me, I say you keep Crochet and you use like Luis Robert as a bargaining chip, and that's my push. But again, I could never argue this point with you as far as like should you trade him or not? Yes, all the semantics, all this data says yes. But for me, man, like I just think to myself, it's like Chris Sale was on this roster before. You let Dylan Cease go. It's like you got to give a reason for these fans to come to the game. And so for me, for 2+ years of control left, I'm like, you got to keep Crochet.
I just see that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Here's why. Because right now, fans, you said they are pissed. Okay, they're pissed, but I think that they'd be more pissed if you kept Garrett Crochet and tried to figure out, well, what's our plan now? What's our selling point? To your point about putting asses in the seats, he made 17 starts at home. Okay. So
just
17
Luis Robert.
Yeah, exactly. So for 17 of 81 games, he put asses in the seats. Like that, even, you know, you're talking about 20% clip, 20% of home games. I think you have the one thing that the White Sox have always done well, going back to when you were playing for the Sox, always develop pitchers. Not always aces, not always wipeout lefties. Yeah, they had a few. Even Rodon had that he still has that nasty wipeout slider. But they've always developed pitching and pitching depth. Number 3 starters, number 5 starters, guys coming, on career rebound type years. Look at what they have right now. The one thing they have a surplus of, it's the only thing they have a surplus of, is pitching. And I know that you're hoping Hagen Smith, who was just drafted, and Noah Schultz the year prior, that you, at best, they're Garrett Crochet. Okay. Well, right now the White Sox have the number 1 and 2 left-handed pitching prospects in the game. There's more, to me, that's more ammo for the argument. This guy has not thrown a lot of bullets, to use that analogy. I know he didn't make a 5-inning start after the All-Star break, but that was on purpose. They wanted to show other teams. Once Crochet pulled the rug out from Chris Getz and said he needs an extension or he's not pitching in the postseason, when the White Sox had 2 or 3 deals lined up with teams trying to win, that pulled the rug right out. And if I were a GM of those opposing teams, I would have done the same damn thing. But now, this is an invitation to everybody. Like I've told you, the Baltimore Orioles, at some point, like, when are we going to see desperation? You've won 200 games in 2 years. You've been in and out of the playoffs quicker than you got in.
Yeah.
You look at a team like the Red Sox. How much longer are they going to play second fiddle in the AL East again? They have 3 of the top 10 prospects in the game. And quite frankly, those 3 prospects, I'm not saying you're getting all of them. All of them are bats. The White Sox have nobody coming. Colson Montgomery had a tough year in AAA. He looked good in the Arizona Fall League. You can build off of that. Edgar Caro was probably their best offensive prospect that's ready to make a jump into the major leagues. But he's a catcher. Like there's one Salvador Perez, right? I mean, there's only a couple guys that can do it behind the plate and hit 30 bombs. And then after that, who we got? Lenine Sosa? Like, I mean, he's quadruple A player. Like a lot of these guys.
One thing we can agree on is whatever the White Sox do, whatever piece they move or pieces, they have to get plug and play impact players right away. And the first thing that comes to mind, right, like us being Chicago guys, is I think like where's the old Ben Zobrist when you need him, right? Where's that guy that could go play second, short, center, left field, do whatever he's got to do, and go hit 300 with 15 to 20, clubhouse leader, all the above, right? So I don't disagree with you there. I'm just, the part I struggle with is I've faced these lefties before, and I know you've had the luxury of having, being a White Sox fan, being a Chicago sports fan, you've seen these guys, like the impact they can have, right? And normally I would say I'm the biggest deterrent of, like, I hate when starters, starting pitchers win MVPs. I'm like, they're on the field 30 games a year, but right. You get a Crochet, a Clayton Kershaw in their prime, and you're going, okay, it's a really, really tough problem to have. Like, what do you do with this fucking guy? Like, it's nuts, right? So I just, in my mind, I think to myself as a fan, a White Sox fan, as someone who's not involved anymore, I go, God, like, if they trade this guy and he ends up being dominant, which he will, and they win, 60 games next year, like the return on investment better be off the charts.
But that's so the one thing I'll agree on with you here, they can't miss this trade. And I think Getz like this trade sets up the entire future of the current rebuild. And if you mess it up, and if it looks like the return on the investment of the Chris Sale trade, which was Yoel Moncada, who we know flatlined, and Kopech, we never saw the highs of the Michael Kopech era, then it's a bust. And then you're sitting back here in 7 years going, what the hell did we do when we had the most coveted pitcher in baseball? MLB.com wrote an article a couple days ago of the teams that they thought were the 8 teams that were best in the mix for the Garrett Crochet. Shockingly, they're the Phillies, the Padres, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Orioles, the Red Sox, the Mets. Yeah. Those are to me, all in, baby. Those are
you surprised?
No, not surprised. And also the teams I want most to be in the mix for him. Because at some point, there's going to be a GM that says, I don't give a shit about the future of this kid in 2 years because we are all about winning right now. Steve Cohen of the Mets, he got close. He didn't want to see the Yankees get to the World Series, even though the Yankees lost. Don't you think he wants to be top dog? What if they go land Juan Soto? And now that he needs to go get the biggest coveted name on the, you think he gives a shit about a guy with a 2026 ceiling? But I'm talking about desperation. Like, are the Orioles really serious about winning the World Series? Or are they serious about having some of the top bats in the game for an extended period of time that leads to nothing? Because when you're playing against the big boys every single day, the Yankees and the Red Sox, the Red Sox are sick of losing. The Yankees got there but didn't get the taste. They have only won. The Yankees have won as many World Series as Brian Anderson since 2005. That's a fact.
That's right, baby.
You think that that works for me too, but it doesn't work for the New York Yankees. And when you look at the guys, the teams that have the best prospects, I mentioned the Red Sox, we have 3 of the top 10. The Orioles, 2 of the top 13. The Yankees, they've been unwilling to part with Jason Dominguez. Well, you know what? If you want Garrett Crochet, you're going to trade off the 14th best prospect in baseball. Noah Schultz of the White Sox, the left-hander, 16th. And you can keep going down the list here. The Padres always have dudes. They have a catcher at 19. You look at the Cubs, to be honest with you, I think the Cubs are a match. Aiden Miller's a stud shortstop for the Philadelphia.
Can you imagine?
I'd be totally fine with that.
Yeah. I know. That would just be real tough. I know.
But look at the Phillies. The Phillies have a 26th ranked prospect in baseball. He's a shortstop. They have Trey Turner for like 1 billion more years. Blocked high. Like, this is easy to me. This makes too much sense. You find the team by the winter meetings that says enough of the BS. We know Garrett Cole's not in the mix. We don't want to take a chance on Snell. Corbin Burns is too rich for our blood for the terms we want to go to. The guy that we believe in most is sitting right here. Throw the extension at Garrett Crochet. And the other thing about it, BA, for me is there's no proof that Crochet is going to build off of this. I think he will. I think he's going to be a stud. I agree with you there. But he's had injury history. He's had Tommy John. No, I think the best is yet to come for Crochet because he's a dude. He knows how to prepare. He's a leader in the clubhouse. It just doesn't make sense to hold on to him to me.
Yeah, you're right. On paper, it doesn't. I guess the part I struggle with the most, and you made some really good points with like the Cease point back in the day a couple episodes ago. And I think the part I struggle with the most, I think, is just the team control component of it, right? They got 2+ years of team control left. And for me, I just think to myself, I go, okay, you got this wipeout lefty. You keep him on there. At least the fans know, okay, we're not completely giving up. You take Luis Strobert, you go to the winter meetings, and you dump him, and you go get the world for him. And by the world, I mean, you get someone that can replace him in center field. You get a Ben Zobrist type, and then you go get like a 2 or 3 starter, which I think you can go get if Getzy does his job, which I think he can. Hey, people talk about Getzy and the Ross School of Business over at Michigan, man. It's going to be put to the test this year because this is what they're paying him to do. This is the part of the GM that sucks. Being a GM is fun, but it sucks too. You got this unbelievable trade chip, right? And everyone thinks like, how do you not do this? Well, you and I sitting here today as just fans of the game, you know why? Because if he goes over to Boston or goes to the Cubs, God forbid, and is 19-6 with a 1.8 ERA, and they win the division,
I don't care.
For Getz's head,
I don't care. Why do people care if they got what if you want to talk about the Cubs? To me, like that's just old news at this point. Like when the White Sox won the World Series in 2005 and the Cubs actually, to me, it was all about 2005. So when the White Sox won the World Series of 2005, I no longer cared about who was first to get to the finish line. The White Sox did it. When the Cubs won in 2016, it ended everything for me. Enough of the bullshit about you can't trade with the North Side. The North Side can't. No, it happened.
Doesn't bother me either. I agree. That doesn't.
This is about where, like, if they let's I'm going to paint you a picture here. Let's say the White Sox did trade him to the Cubs and got Matt Shaw and Owen Cassidy, the Cubs' 2 top offensive prospects, 2 of the top 34 in the game, and both of them came here. One was an all-star, perennial all-star, and one was just a dude who was an above-average player, and you plugged and played him for 5 years, and you took care of 2/9 of your lineup every single day. That's a great trade.
Sure.
That's a great trade.
Not to mention you have Benintendi and you have, Andrew Vaughn over there, which is a little off topic, but, we discussed it past episodes and just offline is like, that's 220 home run guys in the middle of the lineup. You get a Matt Shaw, which to your point, you trade with the Cubs, you have to get Matt Shaw. I mean, I got a chance to watch him play in the Big Ten when he was at Maryland, and his head coach at Maryland rant and raves about him. So that is a non-negotiable. He has to be in that trade, but I think he's a plug and play next year. And then you add, Andrew Vaughn, hopefully he can boost his average up to 270, 280, get 25 pumps. Benintendi, I think, has more in the tank average-wise, but, he turns it around, plays, and we'll call it an average left field. But you get him in left field hitting 270 with 20 and 65 to 80 RBIs. You're talking a completely different ball game, and I agree. But to your point about Crochet, I'm either trade Robert, leave Crochet there, or get rid of both of them. I just don't think you can keep both those guys. Like if you're going to get rid of Crochet, you get rid of Robert too. And you just say, hey, we're going to go young with a couple veteran presence in the clubhouse, and we're going to hope to not have triple digit losses and build.
The only way I do agree with you on that, but I think the only way to get max value for Robert at this point is if you package him with Crochet, because you're coming off, you have the outlier. The outlier, unfortunately, is that 38 homer season with 30 plus doubles. That's the outlier because he got to 100 games played this year, the second time he's ever gotten to 100
I don't
games.
believe it. I don't buy it.
I know.
That was a body double. That was a body double out there.
Yeah. So I'm telling you that if I'm a GM, the only thing that's intriguing about Robert is the juiciness of a 1 year prove it deal, because he's got two options on the back end of that, and it's a $15 million gamble. And if you have four dudes in your lineup already, like the Braves come to mind, if you have guys you can rely on all the time and just let Robert go out there and be a Gold Glover, and whatever he does, that's a win. The other alternative is, Ryan Fuller just got hired for the White Sox as director of hitting.
Sure.
Right. Is that
from Baltimore?
Which is a new title. I've heard what he's had to say. I heard Chuck had him on my old employer's podcast. I got my old partner.
By the way, the White Sox hired me for a different role. It's called "Stay the Hell Away from Our Organization." I'm the director of.
Director of Stay the Hell Away. I don't know if that's a good idea. But maybe a guy like Fuller can change the way Luis Robert, impact. The guy's got a high strikeout rate. He uses his upper half. I heard him talking about upper half versus lower half. We've heard, to me, like all of that stuff just gets thrown in a blender at some point, and it's just noise. So maybe Robert is best suited for a deadline move. But again, I think I'm with you. I think you move them both. You try to, and Crochet's the crown jewel. And you look at the teams. It's funny about this article from MLB. It's like you look at each of their teams and they go through. It's like, is Crochet a match? And it's like the Phillies made a hard push for Crochet, but he'd be the perfect guy.
What
the
kind
Padres,
of question is that? Like,
sensible fit.
on
I know.
Every team.
The Yankees made a pitch for Crochet at the deadline. Now they're willing to move Dominguez. You can never have enough pitching. The Dodgers didn't have enough. Like you look at the Braves make perfect sense. No shit. Like he's the most coveted arm on the market, and for the price, it's just prospects. And I say just prospects.
If he gets traded to the Yankees, let's say, and I don't know why, it's not a personal vendetta, but if they get Dominguez back in that, you're gonna throw your phone through the TV midway through the season. I'm not saying the guy's not a good player, but I think they're putting way too much stock in like this guy's gonna be, Juan Soto type guy. It's like, hey, I've seen some things that are a little alarming only because I went through that stuff, like a little bit of holes in the swing, maybe the pressure cooker situation might get to him a little bit, but there's so many better matches. Like to your point is like the Baltimore. I like Baltimore. I like
Kobe Mayo. Like, can we get Kobe Mayo here, please?
Yeah. Boston is a great matchup.
Boston might make the most sense, to be honest with you, of everything. But to your point about Dominguez, for those who haven't seen him, he's a switch hitter. I like that. What I don't like, he's 5'9", 180. Hi, Ryan McGuffey, 5'9". So I've never been confused for a top-level prospect. Never been confused for a top-level prospect.
Yeah.
At least in this game.
Yeah, but DePaul, you're DePaul, you're Hall of Famer, man. You're DePaul royalty, and that's one thing he'll never be. That's
a great point. How many Monon Bells did he win? None. So as we come down the line here towards the winter meetings. I would be a little surprised if a trade was made before then. I wouldn't be opposed to it because maybe there's a team out there saying, hey, Chris, let's not even get to Dallas. Let me give you what you want right now. Let's pull the rug out from all these other teams and force their hand at paying the big bucks to Corbin Burns. You want these 3 guys, they have to be in the deal. I was including 2. Screw it. I'll give you all 3. Let's get this deal done before Dallas. I think that could happen. We've seen little to no movement in free agency at the winter meetings as of late. I think, and I expect, and everything you read, I expect that to continue. Juan Soto could hold up the entire market. We've had more guys get signed in January and February than ever before, with a pending labor strike coming in a couple of years. And then RSN money just completely drying up. There's not as much of a free for all at the winter meetings. Maybe the free for alls with Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, how much money is that guy getting, by the way? What do you got on Soto? Like I got ballpark.
$6 bills. $6 bills.
Yeah, I got about 650 clip.
650, 12 years ish.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you guys
how young he is, because he looks 47. He's got LeBron face, so they both look like they're 38 when they're 18. But
and they both play out of this world.
What are your thoughts on a Crochet before the trade deadline deal? What are your thoughts about, as a fan, how do you perceive this if the White Sox hold on to Luis Robert? They go spend a little money or a lot of money for them, maybe $30 million on a free agent signed position player and an arm. How do you feel about them hanging on?
Did you see the White Sox spending money? Did you just come on? Hey,
Jared, I heard
this is the White Sox. Hey, wake up! It's the White Sox recap podcast here. Okay, they've lost 222 games in 2 years, and you're sitting there about. Did you just say something about spending $30 million?
Yeah, I think Jerry's going to pull out the black card, man. He's going to spend about $27 million on 3 different guys. It's going to be fine.
$27 million on okay, all right. I guess it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and you are allowed to drink whenever the hell you want. But I feel like I need to go get the stiffest Bloody Mary that I've had in a long time now, because now here's what to your point about trading Crochet at the deadline. Every 5 days is a bigger gamble, and the price goes down with each start he makes. And if no top 100 prospects were traded at the deadline this year, what do you expect at the deadline next year? You are robbing yourself by having Garrett Crochet take the ball on opening day, in my opinion. You are. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's something to be said. I selfishly want to hold on to him because, I want the fans to have something to look forward to, even if that's only 17 times a year at home. And it may not be the greatest move strategically, but again, I just always go back to the team control part. But you're not wrong. I mean, your argument's valid. I mean, if they can go out and get the world for him, and being people that root on the White Sox from afar, it's like go all in and just sell out for the next 2 years and go have something like the Royals did back in 2015, right? They kind of sold out for a few years and just were not very good, and then all of a sudden, all these top tier prospects and veteran presence, they were unbelievable.
I want a plan, okay? And right now, to me, I don't see any scenario, and I've said this to you on this podcast, where they're competitive, and I mean fighting for any type of a wild card before 2027, okay? It's 2024. So I mean, it's 25, 26. So there goes the window of Garrett Crochet, 25, 26. Now we're into 27. At this point, I mean, you're really hoping for some of those guys to be superstars. I know Colson Montgomery has been added to the 40-man, I believe, as we've taped this podcast. But there's more holes and questions than there are answers. And that cupboard, when I open it, is full of a bunch of dudes in the White Sox system that are just guys. Yeah. And right now, there's just not a lot coming. And this is an opportunity to change that right now and make 2027. Make that year a year where you can realistically say, maybe we could be an 85 win club and fight till the end and make a move at the deadline and sneak in to the dance. Because as you know, all you got to do is get in. Once you get in, we've seen the Diamondbacks and Rangers just get in and get all the way to the World Series. Yeah. I don't think the fact that I'm mentioning World Series and White Sox on this podcast, I should unplug the microphone, break the window and throw it all out there because they are so far away from that.
Anniversary's coming up next year, dude. We'll be basking in that again. So
there's your asses in the seats right there.
There you go. Right.
20-year anniversary of the White Sox winning the World Series and the 125th season of White Sox baseball. That's your putting the asses in the seats. Make every weekend an alumni weekend next year. Just make it, bring back the 93 team, celebrate this guy right here, Ozzie, celebrate that guy right here, Frank, and just the guy won back-to-back MVPs, 93, 94. That's what you do. That's how you put fans in the seats. And then hopefully Will Venable, and I'm looking forward to seeing the actual whole coaching staff, hopefully Will Venable changes how the White Sox play baseball and gets that thing and how that they're playing day in and day out. Even if they're losing, if it looks like good competitive baseball and doesn't look like anything we've seen the last 2 years, I think fans could buy into that if you say, hey, look, here's the plan. We're moving Crochet. We're not going to bring back Luis. Here's the type of guys we want. We got some guys that can play right now, and that's the plan moving forward.
Sure. No, and we've talked about it offline several times. There's some value in being transparent with the fan base and saying, hey, guys, do we want to do what we did last year? No. Like, this is embarrassing. No one wants to go through that, but we are going to bring in some veteran leadership that can kind of keep us competitive. But for the most part, we're going to go extremely young. They move Crochet, to your point, division, right? 27, 28, right? That's where we expect to be highly competitive in a run for a World Series championship. And then, again, you just go young and put like a Tampa Bay Rays. I just remember those Tampa Bay Rays. I always revert back to that because from 2005, 2009, I remember going like, who do they have on their team? Evan Longoria, a couple pieces here and there, going there and getting their ass kicked. And you're like, dude, those guys are good. And they've had those, teams over the last 15 years where like, man, those guys are really, really good. Not a bunch of household names, but highly, highly competitive.
But you know what? The Rays know who they are.
Exactly.
You need to know who you are to be those type of teams. The Rays have never confused themselves with being in the Corbin Burns sweepstakes. Mm-hmm. They won't be in the Juan Soto. They are going to they'll develop Juan Soto and then flip him 2 years early to bring in 4 starters somewhere else. They know who they are. They've never strayed from it, which is why they've had success. The White Sox need to figure out who they are. They're a team that's never given out a $100 million salary. Okay? So who are you? Develop, trade from within, bring in from outside, and if that's who you are, identify it and move forward. Yep. So as I wrap this up, are you still wanting to extend Garrett Crochet?
I'm going to tell you this. You've taken me from one voter and now I'm an independent. So I shifted from one side to the other.
Wow. So hard to do in 2024. We need decisiveness.
At 42 years old, I'm becoming an independent. I'm thinking independently. I'm not going to get caught up. But if we have 30 seconds, can we just touch on one thing? We joked about it earlier.
Sure.
I made the terrible mistake of watching Moneyball last night.
And you became angry, didn't you?
I genuinely was like pissed off texting you because of all the hype around like that team in 2002 and how was Billy being able to accomplish like that 103 win or whatever it was season. They just harp on, Chad Bradford and Scott Hatteberg. Let's be clear. They had Miguel Tejada, 30
not mentioned in the show.
34 pumps, 131 RBIs, 310. Eric Chavez, 34 pumps, 110 ribbies. Jermaine Dye, 24 home runs, 86 ribbies. John Mabry, old buddy of mine, he hit 275 with 11 home runs off the bench. And then they had these 3 guys, Barry Zito, Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder.
Heard of them.
Rotation.
Yeah, shockingly not mentioned in the movie.
Yeah, all they did was talk about how,
Hatteberg was, a catcher converted to first baseman. He couldn't catch. All of a sudden, he's hitting a walk-off in the 20th straight win.
Brad Pitt looked great, though. God bless him. Great-looking dude.
I know. He probably looks better now, and that was like almost 20 years ago. As you texted me that, my response to you, just so we're fully transparent, you said it pissed me off. I said, Moneyball was Mulder, Hudson, Zito. Funny, no mention of them or Tejada Chavez.
Yeah.
But Royce Clayton, wasn't it Royce Clayton? Or Royce Clayton played somebody in the movie, I think.
He played Miguel Tejada.
He played Miguel. Did you play with Royce Clayton, by the way? Was he a teammate of yours or no?
No, I just missed him. But there's Ray Durham was on that team too. I mean, like,
big play Ray.
Yeah,
I've said Ray Durham, one of the most underrated White Sox of all time.
Yeah,
by far.
He's
that
good.
Dude was a stud second baseman. All right, brother. So I'm predicting he's traded at the winter meetings. You're predicting after the winter meetings. Is he on the White Sox after the winter meetings?
I'm saying he's opening day starter. They move Luis Robert for a package of a bullpen, a starting pitcher.
Maybe have a puke
and a plug and play position player hitting somewhere between 2 and 5.
You are not Jerry's, but no wonder why you're the director of nothing, because you got Jerry spending money. You got him spending too much money, dude.
The baseball is spoken. It's done. It's done with me, man.
All right, BA. I look forward to figuring out who's right and who's wrong about this topic, because it's a big opportunity for Chris Getz in the future of the Chicago White Sox, and they have a gold nugget and a gem that everyone wants to get their hands on. We'll just see who's willing to talk about it and who's willing to play.
Stay tuned, right?
This has been the White Sox Recap Podcast for my guy, Brian Anderson. I am Ryan McGuffey, and we will see you, and you can listen next time here on the Recap Network and anywhere you download and subscribe to podcast.